Before we begin, consider this. What if the greatest obstacle to awakening is not your past, your habits, your karma, your lack of meditation, or even your wandering mind? What if it is a single assumption so deeply embedded in your experience that you never question it? An assumption that follows you from the moment you wake up in the morning until the moment you fall asleep at night. An assumption that Nisargadatta Maharaj spent his entire life exposing. And according to him, as long as this illusion remains unexamined, awakening remains impossible. Today we explore the one illusion Nisargadatta Maharaj said is preventing awakening right now. Not tomorrow, not after years of spiritual practice, right now, because the illusion is active right now, and so is the possibility of freedom. The humble shopkeeper who shook the spiritual world. Nisargadatta Maharaj was not born into wealth, privilege, or religious fame. Born in 1897 in Maharashtra, India, he lived an ordinary life. He worked as a cigarette seller and ran a small shop. He married, raised a family, paid bills, faced the same daily pressures that millions experience. Nothing about his early life suggested he would become one of the most influential spiritual teachers of the 20th century. Then something happened. In 1933, he met his guru, Siddharameshwar Maharaj. The meeting lasted only a short time, but his teacher gave him a simple instruction: focus on the sense I am. Not on thoughts, not on philosophy, not on rituals, not on becoming something greater. Simply remain with the feeling of being, the bare sense that you exist. Nisargadatta followed this instruction with extraordinary intensity. Within a few years, profound realization occurred. Later, seekers from around the world would travel to his small apartment in Mumbai. Professors, scientists, monks, psychologists, business people, spiritual teachers. Many arrived expecting complex metaphysical systems. Instead, they encountered a direct challenge, a challenge that dismantled their deepest assumptions. Again and again, Nisargadatta pointed toward one central error: the mistaken belief that you are a separate person. Not metaphorically, literally. This was not a philosophical position. It was a fact he insisted could be directly discovered. And according to him, this mistaken identity is the root of all suffering. The illusion. Nobody questions. Imagine wearing a pair of colored glasses from birth. You have never taken them off. You have never seen the world without them. Eventually, you stop noticing the glasses entirely. You assume reality itself has that color. This is how Nisargadatta described identification with the personal self. From childhood, we learn, my name is this. My body is this. My story is this. My achievements define me. My failures define me. My future determines my worth. The mind constructs a psychological character. Then something extraordinary happens. We begin believing we are that character, not merely associated with it, not temporarily expressing through it. We believe we are it. For Nisargadatta, this was the primary illusion, not the existence of the body, not the appearance of thoughts, not the functioning of personality. Those continue. The illusion is the belief that they are what you fundamentally are. And because of that belief, fear becomes inevitable. Think about it. If you are the body, death becomes terrifying. If you are your reputation, criticism becomes dangerous. If you are your success, failure becomes unbearable. If you are your story, every threat to the story becomes a threat to you. The entire structure of psychological suffering rests upon this identification. The separate self feels fragile because it is fragile. It constantly needs protection, validation, control, recognition, security. And yet, despite endless effort, lasting satisfaction never arrives. Why? Because the separate self itself is the illusion. Trying to permanently satisfy it is like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. The search never ends. And that is precisely why awakening seems so distant. The one seeking awakening is the very illusion that must be seen through. The spiritual trap, most seekers never notice here, is where Nisargadatta becomes radically different from many spiritual approaches. Most seekers assume they must improve themselves. become more peaceful, more disciplined, more enlightened, more spiritual. The entire journey becomes another project for the ego, a more sophisticated identity, a more refined self-image. But Nisargadatta repeatedly challenged this tendency. He would often ask, "Who is it that wants enlightenment? Who is the one trying to awaken?" Pause with that question, because it contains immense power. Most people assume awakening belongs to the person. The person becomes enlightened. The person reaches realization. The person achieves liberation. But Nisargadatta pointed out something startling. The person itself appears within awareness. It is observed. It changes. It comes and goes. How can that which is observed be what you truly are? The seeker believes, "I will eventually awaken." But notice what remains hidden inside that sentence. The assumption that I, the psychological person, will gain something in the future. This keeps the illusion alive. The search becomes endless because the seeker is unknowingly searching for the preservation of itself. Yet awakening is not the fulfillment of the separate self. It is the recognition that the separate self was never what you fundamentally were. This is why Nisargadatta's teaching can feel both liberating and uncomfortable. It offers freedom, but not to the ego. The power of the simple sense, I am. If the separate person is not our true nature, how do we discover what is? Nisargadatta's answer was remarkably simple. Return to the sense, I am. Notice he did not say, I am this, I am that, I am successful, I am spiritual, I am awakened. Only, I am. Before every description comes the simple fact of existence, before your name, before your profession, before your memories, before your beliefs. There is the undeniable experience of being. Right now, you know you exist. You do not need proof. You do not need philosophy. You do not need religion. You know it directly. Nisargadatta encouraged seekers to rest in this simple sense of being. Not analyze it, not conceptualize it. Remain with it. Why? Because every false identity is added afterward. The pure feeling of existence comes first. The stories come later. And if attention remains with the pure sense of being long enough, a remarkable shift begins. The observer becomes more apparent than the observed. Awareness becomes more obvious than its contents. The background begins revealing itself. And eventually, even the sense I am is recognized as appearing within something deeper, something prior, something timeless. The discovery beyond thought. Most people spend their lives trying to solve themselves through thinking. If only I understand more. If only I think correctly. If only I find the perfect belief system. But Nisargadatta consistently emphasized that truth cannot be grasped by thought. Why? Because thought itself is an object appearing in awareness. Have you ever noticed that thoughts come by themselves? You do not know your next thought before it arrives. You do not consciously manufacture every mental image. Thoughts appear, remain briefly, disappear. The same is true of emotions, sensations, memories, perceptions. Everything arises and passes, yet something remains constant. The knowing of them, the awareness of them. That awareness does not come and go with each thought. It is present before the thought appears, during the thought, after the thought disappears. This observation formed the foundation of Nisargadatta's teaching. You are not the changing content. You are that in which all content appears. The moment this becomes more than an idea, something profound happens. The mind loses its position as master. Thoughts continue, but they are no longer mistaken for identity. Fear may arise, but it is seen. Anger may arise, but it is seen. Joy may arise, but it is seen. Everything becomes part of the movie, yet you are no longer trapped inside the character. Why awakening feels so close yet so far away? One reason awakening appears elusive is because people look for extraordinary experiences, visions, bliss, energy surges, mystical states, altered consciousness. Nisargadatta warned against this. Experiences come and go. Anything that appears can disappear. Anything that begins must end. Therefore, no experience can be your permanent identity. Many seekers become attached to spiritual experiences and spend years trying to recreate them. But Nisargadatta redirected attention elsewhere, not toward what appears, toward what knows the appearance. This is a subtle but crucial distinction. Imagine standing in front of a movie screen. Most people focus on the images, the drama, the action, the characters. But Nisargadatta asks you to notice the screen itself. Without the screen, no movie could appear. Yet the screen remains untouched by everything projected onto it. Fires burn on the screen. The screen is unharmed. Storms rage on the screen. The screen remains unchanged. Likewise, awareness remains untouched by the contents of experience. This recognition is not somewhere far away. It is available now, closer than breath, closer than thought, closer than any spiritual experience, because it is what is aware of all experiences. The final illusion. As the teaching deepens, an even subtler illusion remains. The belief that awareness belongs to someone. The belief, my awareness, my consciousness, my realization. Nisargadatta pointed beyond even this. He suggested that ultimate reality is beyond all personal ownership, beyond individuality, beyond separation, beyond concepts. In his famous dialogues collected in the book I Am That, he repeatedly directed seekers beyond identification with both body and mind. Even the sense of being an individual witness eventually dissolves. What remains cannot be adequately described. Words fail. Concepts fail. Definitions fail. This is why Nisargadatta often spoke in paradoxes. Reality is not an object. It cannot be seen because it is the very source of seeing. It cannot be known as a thing because it is the source of knowing. The mind wants a conclusion, a final concept, a neat explanation. But awakening is not another concept. It is freedom from the need to hold reality inside concepts. What this means for you, right now. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Nisargadatta's teaching is its immediacy. He did not tell people they needed decades of preparation. He did not insist on complex rituals. He did not require intellectual mastery. Instead, he repeatedly invited seekers to examine their direct experience, right now. Notice the body. It is known. Notice thoughts. They are known. Notice emotions. They are known. Notice memories. They are known. Everything you can observe is known. Now ask yourself, what is it that knows them? Do not answer intellectually. Simply look. Stay with the question. The mind will rush to provide explanations. Let them pass. The invitation is not to think about awareness. It is to notice awareness itself. This simple shift can change everything. Because the illusion preventing awakening is not hidden in some distant cave. It is operating in ordinary experience. The assumption that you are merely the character, merely the story, merely the collection of thoughts and memories. Nisargadatta spent decades pointing to this one mistake, not because he wanted followers, not because he wanted a philosophy, but because he saw that freedom is available the moment this illusion is recognized. And perhaps that is the most radical message of all. You are not trying to become what you truly are. You already are it. The struggle comes from overlooking it. Like a person searching everywhere for the glasses already resting on their face. The search seems endless until the obvious is seen. And once seen, you may discover that what you were seeking was never absent, only obscured by a single illusion. The illusion of being someone separate from the awareness in which all experience appears. According to Nisargadatta Maharaj, that illusion is the only barrier. And the moment it is clearly seen, awakening is not something that happens in the future. It is recognized as what has always been here, quietly, patiently, waiting to be noticed.